Picture this. The throne room of the Red Keep. A boy king sits on the Iron Throne, surrounded by swords forged from the breath of dragons. Before him stands an old man in a white cloak, a cloak he has worn for over 40 years, a cloak stained with the blood of 100 battles, a cloak that has never known dishonor. Until today, the boy king speaks with the cruelty only children can muster. "You are too old," he says, "too weak. You let my father die. You are dismissed from the Kingsguard. Here, take a castle, take some lands, go and die quietly somewhere." The throne room falls silent. Everyone knows what they are witnessing: the end of an era, the death of a legend. But legends do not die quietly. The old knight's eyes burn with a fury that has been building for decades. His voice, when it comes, shakes the very foundations of the Red Keep. "I am a knight," he says. "I shall die a knight." And then he does something no one has ever done. He removes his white cloak, the symbol of everything he has sacrificed, everything he has been for 40 years. He throws it at the boy king's feet like a soiled rag. "Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others if you like." The Kingsguard reaches for their swords. 5 knights, younger, stronger, armored and ready. The old man stands before them, unarmed, unarmored, 60 years old. "Even now I could cut through the 5 of you like carving a cake." No one moves, no one dares, because everyone in that room knows it is true. This is Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold, the greatest knight who has ever lived. And he walks out of that throne room, a free man for the first time in his life. But freedom comes with a terrible price, because Barristan Selmy has secrets. Secrets about kings and queens, secrets about murders and betrayals, secrets that could destroy kingdoms. The question is not whether they will come for him. The question is whether he can escape King's Landing alive. And if he does escape, where does a legendary knight go when he has no king to serve? When everything he believed in has turned to ash? When the white cloak he honored for 4 decades has been thrown in the dirt by a boy who knows nothing of honor? This is not just the story of how Barristan Selmy became the greatest knight in Westeros. This is the story of how he learned that sometimes the greatest act of honor is knowing when to break your vows. Sometimes the most courageous thing a knight can do is walk away. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. To understand how a legend falls, we must first understand how a legend is born. And Barristan Selmy's legend was born in blood. At the age of 10, when he charged at the most feared warrior in the world and earned a name that would echo through history. Barristan the Bold. Let me take you back to where it all began. This is Barristan Selmy, born into House Selmy of Harvest Hall, a minor noble house in the Stormlands, around the year 237 after the conquest. His house was not rich, not powerful, not influential in the great Game of Thrones. They had no dragons, no vast armies, no legendary ancestral weapons. What they had was honor, duty, courage, and in young Barristan, these qualities burned brighter than dragonfire. The Stormlands, where Barristan grew up, are a hard place. Savage storms roll in from Shipbreaker Bay, battering the coast with winds that can tear a man from his horse. The people who live there are as hard as the land. They do not bend, they do not break. Young Barristan was no exception. From the moment he could walk, he trained with sword and shield. While other noble boys played at war, Barristan studied it. The way a blade moves through air, the balance of a lance, the footwork that separates a living knight from a dead one. His teachers saw something in him, something rare. It was not just skill, though he had that in abundance. It was not just dedication, though he practiced until his hands bled. It was something deeper, a purity of purpose, a belief in the ideals of knighthood. that most boys lose when they see their first real battle. Barristan never lost it. He dreamed, as all boys dream, of glory, of tournaments and fair maidens, and songs sung about his deeds. But more than glory, he wanted to be worthy of the title of knight, worthy of the honor his house had carried for generations. He had no idea how soon that dream would be tested. The Kingsguard, the most elite order of knights in all of Westeros, 7 warriors sworn to protect the king until death. They hold no lands, father no children, take no wives. They give up everything for the honor of wearing the white cloak. For Barristan, there could be no higher calling to stand beside the king, to be the shield that guards the realms of men, to uphold every ideal that knighthood represents. But the road to the white cloak is long and brutal. Most knights who dream of it die old men, their dream unfulfilled. Most never even come close. Barristan would wear the white cloak before his 40th year. He would serve longer than almost any knight in history. He would become Lord Commander, the leader of the most feared warriors in the world. But before any of that, before the white cloak and the glory and the legend, there was a boy who did something so impossibly brave that it would define the rest of his life. At the age of 10, Barristan Selmy went to war. The year is 260. After the conquest, across the narrow sea, in the Stepstones, 9 of the most dangerous men in the world have united: outlaws, pirates, sellsword captains, exiled lords. They call themselves the Band of 9. And they have conquered the Stepstones, the islands that link Westeros to Essos. The vital trade routes that bring wealth to the 7 kingdoms are now controlled by these 9 criminals. Ships are plundered, merchants are slaughtered. The Band of 9 grows rich on blood and gold. But wealth is not enough. One of the 9 has a greater ambition. Meleys Blackfire, Meleys the Monstrous, the last of the Blackfire pretenders. For 5 generations, the Blackfire family has tried to claim the Iron Throne. They say they are the true heirs of Aegon the Conqueror. They say the Targaryens stole their birthright. 5 times they have rebelled. 5 times they have failed. Meleys will be the 6th. And Meleys is a monster in every sense of the word. He stands nearly 7 feet tall. His strength is legendary. Men say he once grabbed a horse by the neck and strangled it with his bare hands. Others say he killed his own cousin with a blow so powerful it shattered every bone in the man's body. But the most disturbing thing about Meleys is the 2nd head growing from his neck, a malformed, twisted thing. The remains of a twin brother he absorbed in the womb. It does not speak, does not move, but its dead eyes seem to watch everything. This is the man who will lead the Band of 9 against Westeros. This is the monster who threatens the Targaryen throne. King Jaehaerys II, ruler of the 7 kingdoms, calls his banners. The great lords of Westeros assemble their armies. Thousands of knights and soldiers prepare to cross the narrow sea. Among them is a 10-year-old boy named Barristan Selmy. He is the squire of Sir Manfred Swan, a landed knight of some renown. To be chosen as a squire is an honor. To be taken to war is a test. Most squires in their first campaign stay far from the fighting. They tend horses, clean armor, serve meals. But Barristan is not most squires. The royal army lands on the Stepstones, and the war begins. It is brutal, vicious. The Band of 9 are not soldiers fighting for honor or duty. They are killers fighting for survival. They give no quarter. They take no prisoners. The battles rage across the rocky islands. Knights in shining armor clash with sellswords in rusted mail. Dragons roar overhead, for the Targaryens still have their beasts. Blood turns the sea red. Young Barristan sees it all. The glory he dreamed of as a child does not exist here. There is only mud and blood and screaming. Men die with their guts spilling onto the ground, calling for their mothers. Knights he admired are cut down like dogs. This is real war. This is what it means to be a knight. And then comes the day that changes everything. The final battle. The royal army has cornered Merlis and the remaining members of the Band of Nine. This is it, the end of the war. Victory is close, so close. Sir Manfred Swan, Barristan's knight, rides at the front of the charge. He is brave, skilled, everything a knight should be. Barristan watches from a distance, holding his knight's spare weapons, his heart pounding in his chest. The armies collide like thunder, steel on steel, screams of rage and pain, horses shrieking, dragons roaring. And then Barristan sees it happen. Merlis the monstrous, towering above the battlefield like a giant from the Age of Heroes, swings his massive axe. Sir Manfred Swan raises his shield. The axe comes down with the force of a falling star. The shield shatters. The axe continues through. Sir Manfred Swan, the knight Barristan has served for 2 years, the man who taught him how to hold a lance properly, how to care for armor, how to conduct himself with honor, falls from his horse in 2 pieces. Barristan sees it all. The blood, the look of shock on his knight's face, the way the body hits the ground and does not move. Something breaks inside the boy, or perhaps something awakens. He does not remember making the decision, does not remember grabbing the sword, does not remember running toward the battle. All he knows is that his knight is dead, and the monster who killed him is right there. Merlis the monstrous, the giant with the 2nd head, the strongest warrior in the Band of Nine, the man who has killed hundreds in single combat. And charging at him is a 10-year-old boy with a borrowed sword. Everyone who sees it thinks the same thing. The boy is dead. Some fool squire who does not know his place. He will be crushed, broken, forgotten. The melee sees the boy coming. He laughs. The 2nd head on his shoulder seems to grin with its dead mouth. Barristan does not slow down, does not hesitate, does not think about the fact that he is 10 years old, and this is Merlis Blackfire, the most feared warrior of the age. He just runs, sword raised, screaming with fury and grief. And then they meet. What happens next is confused. Different people tell different versions. Some say Barristan's blade found a gap in Merlis's armor, slipped between the plates, drew first blood. Others say the boy distracted the giant long enough for another knight to deliver the killing blow. Still others claim that Barristan in his fury actually wounded Merlis badly enough that the monster stumbled, and in that moment of weakness was overwhelmed by other attackers. The truth is lost to legend now, but what everyone agrees on is this. A 10-year-old boy charged at Merlis the monstrous, and Merlis the monstrous died in that battle. When the fighting ends, when the blood has soaked into the rocky ground of the stepstones, when the last of the Band of Nine has been killed or captured, someone finds Barristan. He is wounded, not badly, but enough. Cuts on his arms, a gash across his forehead, blood, some of it his own, covering him from head to toe. He is kneeling beside the body of Sir Manfred Swan, crying, still holding the sword. King Jaehaerys II himself comes to see the boy who charged at a giant. The king looks down at this child, this impossible, brave, foolish child, and sees something that reminds him of the knights in the old songs. The knights from the Age of Heroes who fought dragons and demons and never backed down. The king draws his sword. Barristan Selmy, the king says, his voice carrying across the battlefield, for your courage in the face of death, for your loyalty to your fallen knight, for your service to the realm, I name you a knight of the 7 kingdoms. The sword touches Barristan's shoulders, left, right, the ancient ritual. "Rise, Sir Barristan." And there on the blood-soaked stones, with his dead knight lying beside him, with the body of Meleys the monstrous cooling nearby, 10-year-old Barristan Selmy becomes a knight, the youngest knight in living memory. They give him a name that day, Barristan the Bold, for the boldness of his charge, for the courage that drove him to do the impossible. The name will follow him for the rest of his life. When the army returns to Westeros, Barristan Selmy is a hero. Songs are already being written about the boy who killed the monster. Taverns across the 7 kingdoms echo with the tale. Mothers tell their children about brave Sir Barristan. Knights speak his name with respect. He is 10 years old, and he is a legend. But Barristan does not feel like a legend. He feels like a boy who watched his knight die. A boy who charged at a monster not out of courage, but out of rage and grief. A boy who got lucky. He does not know it yet, but this moment will define everything that comes after. The boldness he showed on the stepstones, the willingness to charge into impossible odds, the refusal to back down no matter the cost, these things will become the core of who he is. Barristan the Bold will live up to his name, again and again, in tournaments, in battles, in single combat. For the next 60 years, he will face death without flinching. But he will also learn something else, something darker. Courage alone is not enough. Boldness without wisdom can serve evil as easily as good. And sometimes the bravest thing a knight can do is not charge forward, but stand still and refuse. Those lessons are still to come. For now, he is just a boy with a new title and a blood-stained sword. Sir Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold, the youngest knight in the 7 kingdoms. The legend has begun. The years between knighthood and the white cloak are a blur of steel and glory. Barristan returns to Westeros, a hero, but heroes must prove themselves again and again. The story of the boy who charged at Meleys spreads, but stories fade. What matters is what you do next. So Barristan does what he was born to do. He fights. The tournament grounds of Westeros become his proving ground. Blackhaven, Maidenpool, King's Landing itself. Wherever knights gather to test their skill, Barristan is there. He is young, barely more than a boy, but his lance never wavers. In the joust, he rides like a man possessed. Opponents twice his age, knights who have spent decades perfecting their craft, fall before him. His shield work is flawless. His aim is true. When his lance strikes, men go flying from their saddles like leaves in a storm. In the melee, he is even more terrifying. A dozen knights come at him with blunted swords and he cuts through them like they are made of straw. His movements are economical, precise, beautiful in their efficiency. No wasted motion, no unnecessary flourishes, just pure, deadly skill. The ladies of the court shower him with favors. Lords offer him positions in their households. Songs are written about his victories. But Barristan is not interested in wealth or fame or the affection of noble ladies. He has given up that life before it even began. Because there is only one thing Barristan Selmy wants. The white cloak. The Kingsguard. 7 knights sworn to defend the king until death. The most elite warriors in the 7 kingdoms. To wear the white cloak is to give up everything. Your family name means nothing. You will hold no lands, father no children, take no wife. You exist only to serve. For most knights, this is too high a price, but for Barristan it is the only price worth paying. King Jaehaerys II dies in the year 262. After ruling for only 3 years, his son Aerys takes the throne. Aerys II, young, charismatic, full of grand ambitions for the realm. In these early years, Aerys seems like the perfect king. He throws lavish feasts, he supports the arts, he listens to his small council. His hand Tywin Lannister is perhaps the most capable administrator the Seven Kingdoms has ever seen. Together they bring prosperity and peace. The realm flourishes under Aerys, and the Kingsguard needs knights to fill its ranks. Barristan is in his early 30s when the summons comes. The king has chosen him. Out of all the knights in Westeros, all the warriors who dream of wearing white, Aerys II has chosen Barristan Selmy. The ceremony takes place in King's Landing. Barristan kneels before the Iron Throne, that monstrous seat forged from 1,000 surrendered swords. Aerys sits above him, young and handsome, his silver hair gleaming in the light from the high windows. The vows are ancient, eternal, unbreakable. "I swear to ward the king with all my strength," Barristan says, his voice steady, "to give my blood for his. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall guard his secrets, obey his commands, ride at his side, and defend his name and honor." The white cloak is placed upon his shoulders. It is heavier than he expected. Not the cloth itself, but what it represents. Every knight who has worn this cloak, every oath that has been sworn, every sacrifice that has been made. Arise, Sir Barristan Selmy of the Kingsguard. He stands, for the first time in his life. He wears the white cloak. He has given up everything for this moment. The chance to marry, to have sons who would carry his name, to build a legacy beyond his own lifetime. All of it surrendered. And he has never been happier. The other members of the Kingsguard become his brothers. They train together in the yards of the Red Keep. They stand guard together during the long nights. They protect the king together during his travels across the realm. These are good years, perhaps the best years of Barristan's life. He serves a king who seems worthy of service. The realm is at peace. His duty and his conscience align perfectly. He does not know that this peace is temporary, that the king he serves will transform into something monstrous, that the white cloak he wears with such pride will become a prison. For now, there is only the purity of service, the clarity of purpose. Barristan rises through the ranks of the Kingsguard, not through ambition, but through sheer excellence. When other knights falter, he stands firm. When others complain about the endless hours of guard duty, he remains silent and focused. When others bend the rules, find ways around their vows, Barristan holds himself to a standard that borders on the impossible. He never touches a woman, though many offer themselves. He never drinks to excess, though wine flows freely at court. He never speaks ill of anyone, never involves himself in the political games that consume the Red Keep. He is what every Kingsguard should be, the living embodiment of the vows. Other knights watch him and feel inadequate. How can any man live up to such a standard? How can anyone be so devoted, so pure, so absolutely committed to an ideal? But Barristan does not see himself as special. He sees himself as doing what he swore to do. Nothing more, nothing less. The years pass. Westeros remains a good king, or at least not a terrible one. Tywin Lannister handles the day-to-day governance, while Aerys enjoys the pleasures of being king. It is not the most inspiring arrangement, but it works. Barristan stands guard outside the throne room. He protects Aerys during royal progresses. He rides beside the king when Aerys goes hunting. He is there, always there, a silent white shadow. And he is content. This is what he was meant to do. This is his purpose. But in the year 277, everything changes. A minor lord in the Crownlands, a man named Denys Darklan, makes a decision that will alter the course of history. He invites the king to Duskendale, and Barristan Selmy, loyal unto death, rides beside his king into a trap that will define the rest of his life. Lord Denys Darklyn is not a great lord. His town of Duskendale sits on the coast of Blackwater Bay, close enough to King's Landing to matter, but not important enough to command real power. He wants more. His Mirish wife, Lady Sarala, wants more. They whisper together in the dark. What if they could force the king to give them what they want? A charter for Duskendale, freedom from certain taxes, the right to hold their own court of justice. All they need is leverage. So they invite King Aerys to visit. Come to Duskendale, they say. Let us discuss the future of our town. Let us show you our hospitality. Aerys agrees. Why would he not? He is the king. Who would dare harm him? Barristan and the other Kingsguard counsel caution. Something about this invitation feels wrong. Duskendale is too small, too insignificant for a royal visit. What does Darklyn really want? But Aerys dismisses their concerns. He is growing proud in these years, less willing to listen to advice. I am the king, he says. The blood of the dragon. No one would dare threaten me. So they ride to Duskendale, a small escort, a few Kingsguard, some household knights. Not enough men for a proper royal procession, but Aerys insists. He does not want to seem afraid. Barristan rides beside the king, his hand never far from his sword. Every instinct screams danger, but his vows demand obedience. If the king commands, he must follow. They arrive at Duskendale. Lord Darklyn greets them with smiles and wine. The castle is prepared for their visit. Everything seems normal. Too normal. The meeting begins in Darklyn's hall. The king and the lord discuss taxes, trade, governance. Barristan stands behind Aerys, watching, waiting. And then it happens. Darklyn's guards rush into the hall. Dozens of them, armed, armored, surrounding the royal party. It is a trap. Barristan's sword is out before anyone else moves. The other Kingsguard react in the same instant. Steel sings as blades leave scabbards. Lord Darklyn stands and screams, "Take the king, do not kill him. Take him alive." The hall erupts into chaos. Barristan cuts down the first guard who comes at him, the second, the third. His blade moves like lightning, faster than thought. Blood sprays across the stone floor. But there are too many, far too many. They keep coming, wave after wave, surrounding the Kingsguard, pushing them back. Barristan fights like a man possessed. He will not let them take his king. He will die first. That is his vow. A sword catches him across the arm. Another slashes his leg. A pike jabs into his side. Pain explodes through his body, but he keeps fighting. His vision narrows to the enemies in front of him. Cut, parry, thrust, kill. More guards pour into the hall. They are not trying to kill the Kingsguard, just overwhelm them, and it is working. Barristan sees other white cloaks fall, not dead, but wounded, dragged down by sheer numbers. He tries to reach the king, but there are too many men between them. And then something hits him from behind. A blow to the head. The world spins. He falls to his knees. The last thing he sees before darkness takes him is King Aerys being dragged away, screaming, terrified. He has failed. When Barristan wakes, he is in a dungeon, chains on his wrists, chains on his ankles, blood crusted on his face from the head wound. The other surviving Kingsguard are in nearby cells. They do not speak. What is there to say? They have failed the most basic duty of their order. The king has been captured on their watch. Days pass, then weeks. News filters down to the dungeons through careless guards. Lord Darklyn is holding the king hostage. He has sent demands to King's Landing. Give him what he wants, or Aerys dies. Tywin Lannister, the Hand of the King, is assembling an army outside Duskendale, a siege. But if Tywin attacks, Aerys will be killed. Stalemate. Barristan lies in his cell and stares at the ceiling. The wound on his head has scabbed over. The cuts on his arms and legs are healing. But the wound to his pride, to his honor, will never heal. He is a Kingsguard. He swore to protect the king with his life. And he is lying in a dungeon while his king is held prisoner somewhere above. The days turn into months, 6 months, half a year in chains, while the man he swore to protect suffers. Barristan learns from the guards that Aerys is not being tortured, not physically, but Lady Sarala visits him often. She whispers in his ear, tells him that everyone has betrayed him, that his hand wants him dead, that his own Kingsguard abandoned him. The king is breaking, losing his mind in captivity, and Barristan can do nothing but wait. Then one night, he hears voices, guards talking outside his cell. Tywin Lannister is preparing a final assault. He will storm Duskendale. If Aerys dies in the attack, so be it. The institution of the crown is more important than any one king. Barristan's blood runs cold. Tywin will sacrifice Aerys to make a point, to show that kings cannot be held hostage. It is politically sound, strategically correct, and absolutely unacceptable. Barristan made a vow, not to the institution of the crown, not to the concept of kingship, to this king, this specific man, Aerys Targaryen. And if no one else will save him, then Barristan will do it himself. He studies his cell. The lock is old but solid. The chains are iron, thick and heavy. The guards change every 8 hours, 2 men at a time. He waits, watches, plans. And then one night when the moon is dark and the castle is quiet, Barristan makes his move. The details are lost to legend now. Some say he picked the lock with a bit of wire. Others claim he overpowered his guards when they brought food. Still others whisper that he simply broke the chains through sheer strength. What matters is this: Barristan Selmy escapes his cell. He moves through Duskendale Castle like a ghost. No armor, no sword, just a knight in torn, filthy clothes who knows he has one chance to save his king. He finds weapons, a guard's sword taken from a sleeping man, a dagger from a kitchen. Not his own blade, but they will do. The castle is a maze, but Barristan navigates it with the instinct of a man who has studied fortifications his entire life. He knows where dungeons are built, knows where high-value prisoners are kept, and he knows how to kill silently. The first guard dies without a sound, a hand over the mouth, a blade between the ribs. The second guard hears something, turns, and Barristan's sword opens his throat before he can scream. More guards, more deaths. Barristan moves through the castle, leaving bodies in his wake. This is not the chivalric combat of tournaments. This is murder, brutal and efficient. He does not enjoy it, but he does not hesitate either. Finally, he finds the room where Aerys is held. 2 guards outside. Barristan kills them both in seconds. He opens the door. Aerys is inside, chained to the wall. The king looks terrible, gaunt, wild-eyed. His hair has grown long and filthy. His clothes are rags. But he is alive. "Your Grace," Barristan whispers, "we are leaving." Aerys stares at him. For a moment, there is no recognition. Then something sparks in those mad eyes. "Barristan, is it really you, or is this another of her tricks?" "It is me. I have come to take you home." He breaks the chains, arms the king with one of the dead guard's swords, and together they run. The alarm is raised. Bells ring throughout the castle. Guards pour into the corridors, but Barristan and Aerys are already moving, already fighting their way toward freedom. Barristan kills anyone who gets in their way. His sword never stops moving. He is wounded again, new cuts adding to old scars, but he does not slow down. They burst out of the castle into the streets of Duskendale. Guards chase them, arrows fly. Barristan covers the king with his own body, taking an arrow in the shoulder. They fight through the streets. Buildings blur past, people scream and scatter, and then they are through the town gates, running into the countryside beyond. Tywin Lannister's army is camped a mile away. Barristan and Aerys stumble toward it, bleeding and exhausted. When the sentries see them, see the king alive and the Kingsguard who saved him, a cheer goes up that shakes the sky. Barristan has done the impossible. Single-handedly infiltrated an enemy castle, freed his king, fought through dozens of guards, escaped against all odds. He is a hero, again. Tywin's army storms Duskendale. The next day, Lord Denys Darklyn is executed. His entire family is put to death. House Darklyn is extinguished from history. Lady Serala is tortured to death for her role in the plot. The message is clear. You do not threaten the king. And Barristan Selmy is named Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, the youngest Lord Commander in a century, the reward for his impossible rescue. Songs are written, tales are told. Barristan the Bold has earned his name twice over now. But there is a darkness growing, one that no one sees yet, one that will poison everything. Aerys Targaryen is not the same man who went into Duskendale. The captivity broke something inside him. Lady Serala's whispers took root. The paranoia she planted grows like a cancer. He trusts no one now, sees traitors everywhere. His hair and nails continue to grow long, because he will not let barbers near him with blades. He begins to fear his own shadow. And Barristan, the man who saved him, does not realize the terrible truth. He should have let Aerys die in Duskendale. The king he rescued will become the Mad King, and Barristan will spend the next 6 years watching in horror as the man he saved descends into madness and cruelty. But that revelation is still to come. For now there is only the glory of the rescue and the weight of the white cloak that now marks him as Lord Commander. Barristan Selmy has never been more honored, and never more doomed. The transformation does not happen overnight. At first, Aerys seems merely shaken by his captivity. Understandable. The man was held prisoner for 6 months, threatened with death, psychologically tortured by a woman who wanted to break his mind. But as the months pass, the changes become impossible to ignore. Aerys refuses to cut his hair. When servants approach with scissors, he screams at them, accuses them of trying to murder him. His nails grow long and yellow, curling like claws. He scratches himself constantly, leaving red marks across his arms and face. He stops bathing. The handsome young king who once charmed the court with his silver hair and easy smile becomes a gaunt, filthy creature who smells of sweat and madness. And he starts to see traitors everywhere. His small council meetings become exercises in paranoia. Every suggestion is met with suspicion. Every piece of advice is secretly a plot against him. Even Tywin Lannister, the man who has served him faithfully for years, becomes suspect. Barristan watches this transformation from his position behind the throne. He stands there in his white cloak, silent and still, as the king he saved slowly loses his grip on reality. The first burning happens 3 years after Duskendale. A minor lord is accused of treason. The evidence is thin, almost non-existent, but Aerys is convinced. He orders the man brought before the court. Barristan stands in his usual place, expecting a trial, perhaps even a pardon, if the man can prove his innocence. Instead, Aerys orders wildfire. The substance is brought in clay pots, bright green and deadly. Alchemists carefully pour it over the condemned man while he screams and begs for mercy. Aerys leans forward on the Iron Throne. His eyes are bright with anticipation. Burn him. The flames are green, and they are hungry. The man's screams echo through the throne room. The smell of burning flesh fills the air. Courtiers cover their faces and turn away. But Aerys watches. He watches and he smiles. Barristan stands behind the throne. His hand rests on his sword hilt, but he does not draw it, cannot draw it. The king has given a command. A sentence has been carried out. This is the king's justice. Even if it is not justice at all, the burnings continue. More men accused of treason, real or imagined. More screaming, more green fire, more of that terrible smile on Aerys's face. The other members of the Kingsguard begin to speak in whispers when they think no one can hear. This is wrong. This is not what they swore to protect, but what can they do? Their vows are absolute. Barristan silences these conversations. We serve the king, he says. We do not judge him. That is not our place. But at night, alone in his chambers, Barristan lies awake and wonders if he is lying to himself. The worst moment comes in the year 282. Brandon Stark, eldest son of Lord Rickard Stark of Winterfell, rides to King's Landing in a fury. His sister Lyanna has been taken by Prince Rhaegar, Aerys' son. Brandon does not ask for a meeting, does not send a polite request for audience. He rides straight to the Red Keep and shouts at the walls, "Come out and die, Rhaegar. Come out and face me." It is the act of a young man driven by rage and fear for his sister. Foolish, yes. Hot-headed, certainly, but not treason. Aerys sees it differently. He has Brandon arrested, along with his companions, Ethan Glover, Kyle Royce, Elbert Arryn, young men, sons of noble houses, guilty only of riding with their friend. Then Aerys sends messages to their fathers, "Come to King's Landing, answer for your son's crimes." Lord Rickard Stark, Warden of the North, comes. He believes there will be a trial. He brings no army, no threats, just a father coming to defend his son. Aerys has other plans. The throne room is packed with courtiers, the day of the trial. Barristan stands in his usual position, sensing something terrible about to unfold. Atamis sits on the Iron Throne, his long nails clicking against the metal armrests. His eyes are fever bright. Lord Rickard Stark demands trial by combat, as is his right. Aerys agrees. But then he names his champion, Fire. Barristan's blood turns cold. They bring Lord Rickard into the throne room. He is forced into his armor. But this armor is not meant for combat. It is suspended from the ceiling by chains. Beneath him, they pile wood and kindling. Brandon is brought in next. A leather cord is wrapped around his neck, attached to a strangulation device. A sword is placed just out of his reach. Aerys leans forward. Let us begin. They light the fire beneath Lord Rickard. The wood catches, flames rise. The armor begins to heat. Brandon struggles toward the sword. If he can reach it, he can cut his father down, save him. But every movement forward tightens the cord around his neck. The throne room is silent, except for the crackling of flames and Brandon's choking gasps. Lord Rickard begins to scream as the armor heats. He is being cooked alive inside his own steel shell. The smell is indescribable. Brandon stretches toward the sword. His face turns purple. The cord bites deeper, but still he reaches, trying desperately to save his father. He strangles himself in the attempt. His body goes limp, hanging from the cord. Lord Rickard's screams continue for several more minutes. Then they stop. 2 men, father and son, dead in the most horrific way imaginable. And King Aerys Targaryen laughs. Barristan stands behind the throne. He has seen men die in battle, seen them cut down by swords and pierced by arrows. But this is different. This is torture disguised as justice. This is evil. His hand tightens on his sword. For just a moment, he imagines drawing it, imagines ending this here and now. One stroke and the Mad King dies. The realm is saved. But he does not move, cannot move. He is Kingsguard. He swore a vow, and that vow binds him more surely than any chain. After the execution, Aerys makes another decision. He demands the heads of Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon, brothers to the executed men in all but blood. Jon Arryn, Lord of the Eyrie and guardian to both young men, refuses. Instead, he calls his banners. Robert's rebellion begins. The realm tears itself apart. Great houses choose sides. Brother fights brother. Father fights son. The civil war that will decide the future of the 7 kingdoms erupts like a wound that has been festering for years. And through it all, Barristan serves his king. He knows the rebels are right, knows that Aerys has become a monster who deserves to fall. Every instinct, every principle he was raised with, tells him that Robert Baratheon and Eddard Stark are justified in their rebellion. But he is Kingsguard. The White Cloak does not choose sides. It does not judge the king's decisions. It protects and obeys. So Barristan fights for Aerys. He leads men into battle against the rebels. His sword, the sword that has never been defeated in single combat, cuts down soldiers who are fighting for justice against tyranny. He hates it, hates himself for it. But he does it anyway, because the alternative is to break his vows. And if he breaks his vows, what is he? What has his entire life meant? Other knights make different choices. Some abandon Aerys and join the rebels. Some flee to Essos rather than serve a mad king. Some simply disappear into the countryside. But Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold, stays. He stays because leaving would mean admitting that the last 20 years of his life, all the sacrifices he made, were for nothing. He tells himself he is serving the institution of the monarchy, not the man. He tells himself that the Kingsguard must remain above politics. He tells himself that someone has to maintain honor even when serving a dishonorable king. But deep down, in the quiet moments before sleep, he knows the truth. He is a coward. Not in battle, never in battle, but in the throne room, when it mattered most, when he could have stopped the horror, he did nothing. He stood still and silent while innocent men burned. That knowledge will haunt him for the rest of his life. The war intensifies. Battles rage across Westeros. The Targaryens still have loyalists, great houses that support them out of tradition or fear. But the rebels are winning. Slowly, battle by battle, they push toward King's Landing. Prince Rhaegar, Aerys' son, finally emerges from wherever he has been hiding with Lyanna Stark. He takes command of the loyalist forces. There is hope among those who serve Aerys that perhaps Rhaegar can salvage this situation. Perhaps the prince can win the war his father started. Rhaegar is everything. Aerys is not noble, brave, sane. If anyone can unite the realm behind the Targaryens, it is him. Barristan watches Rhaegar prepare for battle and feels something he has not felt in years. Hope. If Rhaegar wins, perhaps he can control his father. Perhaps he can undo some of the damage. Perhaps the white cloak Barristan wears can mean something again. The 2 armies meet at a place called the Trident, a river in the Riverlands where the future of Westeros will be decided. Barristan rides in the vanguard. He is Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. His place is at the front, leading the charge. He does not know that this battle will change everything, that by the end of the day, he will have lost for the first time in his life. And that loss will define every day that comes after. The Trident is not a single river, but three. The Red Fork, the Green Fork, and the Blue Fork, all flowing together through the heart of the Riverlands. The place where the armies meet is called the Ruby Ford, though it does not have that name yet. It will earn that name today. Barristan can see the rebel army across the river. Thousands of men, banners flying, the crowned stag of House Baratheon, the dire wolf of House Stark, the mockingbird of House Bassey, the trout of House Tully, and somewhere in that mass of soldiers is Robert Baratheon himself. The demon of the Trident, they call him, a warrior of legendary strength who wields a warhammer that can crush a man's chest through solid steel. On Barristan's side, the dragon banners of House Targaryen, 40,000 men loyal to Aerys, and leading them is Prince Rhaegar in his black armor decorated with rubies, the Dragon Prince, the last dragon, the man who might save the realm. The battle begins at dawn. Both armies crash together at the ford, like two waves meeting in a storm. The sound is indescribable. Steel on steel. Shields splintering, men screaming, horses shrieking in pain and terror. Barristan is in the thick of it immediately. His sword moves like a living thing. Every strike is perfect. Every parry precisely timed. Men die on his blade, and he does not stop to count them. This is what he was made for. Not standing silent in throne rooms while people burn, not watching atrocities and doing nothing. This combat, where everything is simple and clear, where there is only survival and death. He cuts through rebel soldiers like a farmer harvesting wheat. His white cloak is soon red with blood. His armor is dented from blows that would have killed a lesser knight. But Barristan barely feels them. He is in that place warriors reach when the battle consumes everything else. No thought, no hesitation, just motion and steel. Around him the loyalist forces push forward. They are winning, slowly, painfully, but winning. If they can break the rebel line, if they can force Robert's army to retreat, the war might turn. Then Barristan becomes separated from the main force. It happens in the chaos of the melee. One moment he is surrounded by loyalist soldiers. The next he is alone, cut off by a surge of rebel fighters. They recognize the white cloak. They know what it means. A dozen men attack at once. Barristan kills the first three in as many seconds. His blade opens throats, pierces hearts, removes limbs with surgical precision. But there are too many. They keep coming, wave after wave, trying to bring down the legendary knight. A sword catches him across the ribs. His armor holds, but the impact drives the air from his lungs. Another blade slashes his leg, cutting through a gap in his armor. Blood flows hot down his thigh. He stumbles but does not fall. Kills two more attackers. A pike jabs into his side. He breaks the shaft and cuts down the man holding it. But there are always more. His vision narrows. His arms grow heavy. Blood loss and exhaustion are taking their toll. He is 60 years old, fighting men in their prime, wounded and surrounded. For the first time in his life, Barristan Selmy knows he is going to die. He does not stop fighting. Even now, even knowing this is the end, he will not yield. His sword continues its deadly work. More men fall, more blood stains the trident. But eventually, inevitably, the blows land faster than he can block them. His sword arm is cut. His shield arm goes numb. A blow to the head rocks him sideways. He falls. The water of the trident closes over him, cold and red with blood. He tries to rise, but his legs will not obey. tries to grip his sword, but his fingers are too weak. Above him, through the murky water, he sees shapes moving. The battle continues without him. He has failed again. Somewhere nearby, though Barristan does not see it, the duel that will decide the war unfolds. Prince Rhaegar Targaryen faces Robert Baratheon in the middle of the ford, the Dragon Prince in his beautiful black armor, with rubies glittering like blood, the demon of the trident with his antlered helm and massive warhammer. The two men circle each other, while armies clash around them. Everyone who sees them stops fighting, transfixed. Rhaegar attacks first. His sword is quick, his technique flawless, but Robert's warhammer is a brutal weapon that cares nothing for technique. He swings it with terrible strength, each blow capable of shattering bone. They fight in the water, splashing, striking, neither giving ground. For a moment, it seems Rhaegar might win. His sword finds gaps in Robert's armor, drawing blood. Then Robert's warhammer catches Rhaegar square in the chest. The sound of the impact carries across the battlefield. The rubies decorating Rhaegar's armor scatter like drops of blood, flying in all directions, sinking into the river. Rhaegar falls. The water around him turns red. Robert stands over him, warhammer raised for another blow. But it is not necessary. The Dragon Prince is dead. The Loyalist army sees their leader fall. Their hope dies with Rhaegar. The line breaks. Men throw down their weapons and run. The Battle of the Trident is over. The rebels have won. Barristan lies in the shallows of the river, bleeding, barely conscious. He does not see Rhaegar die, does not see the Loyalist army scatter. He sees only the red water and the gray sky above. Rebel soldiers find him eventually. They recognize the white cloak, even soaked in blood and river water. That is Barristan Selmy, someone says. Barristan the Bold. Kill him. Another voice responds. He killed dozens of our men. But an older soldier, a man who remembers the songs about the boy who charged at melees, stops them. You do not just kill Barristan Selmy. He is a legend. We take him to Robert. They pull Barristan from the water, bind his wounds enough to keep him alive. He drifts in and out of consciousness as they carry him to the rebel camp. When he wakes next, he is lying on a cot in a tent. A maester is tending his wounds. Every part of his body screams with pain. The maester sees him wake. You are lucky to be alive, Sir Barristan. I counted 17 separate wounds. Any one of them could have killed you. Barristan does not feel lucky. Over the following days, as his body slowly heals, news reaches him in fragments. Rhaegar is dead. The Loyalist army shattered. Tywin Lannister has betrayed Arrys and sacked King's Landing. The Mad King is dead, stabbed in the back by one of his own Kingsguard. Jaime Lannister, the youngest member of the Order, barely more than a boy. He killed the king. He swore to protect. The irony is not lost on Barristan. He stood by and watched Arrys commit atrocities for years, bound by his vows. Jaime broke those vows to stop the madness. Which of them was right? Barristan lies in the tent and stares at the canvas ceiling and has no answer. More news comes. Princess Elia and her children are dead, murdered during the sack. Rhaegar's wife and babies slaughtered by Gregor Clegane on Tywin's orders. Baby Aegon's head smashed against a wall. Little Rhaenys stabbed dozens of times. 300 years of Targaryen rule ended in blood and screaming. And Barristan did nothing to stop it, could do nothing. His vows kept him chained as surely as iron shackles. After 2 weeks, when Barristan can stand without falling, they bring him before Robert Baratheon. The new king sits in a campaign chair, still wearing his armor. His face is bruised from the battle. His knuckles are split and bloody. He looks at Barristan, with eyes that have seen too much death. "Sir Barristan Selmy," Robert says. "Barristan the Bold, you fought well at the Trident, killed many good men." Barristan says nothing. What is there to say? "My lords want me to execute you," Robert continues. "You served the Mad King. You fought against us. You are a symbol of the old regime." Barristan straightens. If Robert wants his head, he will not beg for mercy. He is a knight. He will die a knight. But Robert does not reach for his warhammer. Instead, he studies Barristan's face. "When I was a boy," Robert says quietly, "I had heroes, knights from the songs, men who embodied everything a knight should be. You were one of them. I used to dream of fighting alongside Barristan the Bold." He pauses. "Then I grew up and found myself fighting against you. Strange how life turns." Barristan meets his gaze. "I served my king," he says, "as my vows demanded." "I know," Robert replies. "That is why I am not going to kill you." The tent falls silent. Outside, the wind rustles the canvas. "I am going to offer you a choice," Robert says. "You can die here, executed as a traitor to the new regime, or you can live. You can continue to serve as a knight of the Kingsguard. Serve me as you served Ares." Barristan's world narrows to this single moment. This single decision. He should refuse. Should die with honor rather than serve the man who killed his prince. That would be the noble choice, the choice the songs would praise. But Barristan is so very tired, tired of watching people die, tired of serving madness, tired of the weight of his failures. And there is something else. A cold, hard logic. If the Kingsguard can only serve kings they agree with, then the order means nothing. The vows must transcend personal feelings, must be absolute. Robert is the king now, by conquest, by victory, by the will of the realm. And the Kingsguard serves the king, whoever he is. Barristan looks at the man who killed Rhaegar, the man who ended the dynasty he served for decades, the usurper. "I accept," he says quietly. Robert nods. "Then you will continue to wear the white cloak. You will serve House Baratheon as you served House Targaryen. Your past is forgiven." Barristan kneels, swears new vows to a new king, and tries not to think about how easily he has betrayed everything he claimed to believe in. That night, alone in his tent, he examines the decision from every angle. He did not break his vows by accepting. The Kingsguard serves the throne, not a specific dynasty. Robert sits the throne now. Therefore, serving Robert is not betrayal, but duty. The logic is sound, unassailable, and it feels like ash in his mouth. The early years of Robert's reign are strange for Barristan. He wears the same white cloak, stands in the same positions, guards the same throne, but everything is different. Robert Baratheon is nothing like Aerys Targaryen. Where Aerys was paranoid, Robert is trusting. Where Aerys was cruel, Robert is jovial. Where Aerys saw enemies everywhere, Robert sees friends and potential drinking companions. It should be easier to serve Robert, and in many ways, it is. There are no burnings, no screaming victims, no torture disguised as justice. But Robert is also absent. He has no interest in ruling. The day-to-day governance of the Seven Kingdoms bores him. He would rather hunt, drink, and whore than sit through small council meetings. Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King, runs the realm while Robert enjoys being king without actually doing the work. Barristan watches this arrangement with mixed feelings. On one hand, Jon Arryn is wise and capable. The realm is well governed. On the other hand, what kind of king abandons his responsibilities? But it is not Barristan's place to judge. He is Kingsguard. He protects the king, nothing more. The other members of the Kingsguard are a mixed group now. Some, like Barristan, served the Targaryens and took Robert's pardon. Others are new appointments, chosen more for political reasons than skill. And there is Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. The relationship between Barristan and Jaime is complicated. They are brothers in the Kingsguard, sworn to fight and die together, but Jaime killed the king he was supposed to protect. Stabbed Aerys in the back while the old man begged for mercy. It is the ultimate betrayal of their vows, the thing every Kingsguard swears never to do. Yet Barristan cannot entirely condemn Jaime for it, because Aerys was planning something terrible in those final moments, planning to burn King's Landing with wildfire, to kill everyone in the city rather than let Robert take it. Jaime stopped him, broke his vows to save 500,000 people. Was that wrong, or was standing aside while Aerys burned people alive wrong? Barristan does not know, and he does not ask. He and Jaime rarely speak beyond what duty requires. The question hangs between them, unspoken but always present. Which of us is the better knight? The one who kept his vows and enabled evil, or the one who broke his vows and stopped it? In the year 289, 6 years into Robert's reign, Balon Greyjoy declares independence for the Iron Islands. The Greyjoy rebellion is short but brutal. Robert calls his banners and personally leads the war. This is the kind of thing Robert lives for. Battle, glory, a chance to use his warhammer again. Barristan fights in the assault on Pike, the Greyjoy stronghold. The castle sits on a rocky island, connected to the mainland by bridges of rope and stone. The attack is treacherous, fighting across narrow spans, while ironborn warriors try to cut them down. Barristan is in his 50s now. Many of the other knights are younger, stronger, faster. It does not matter. His sword cuts through the ironborn like they are made of paper. Age has not dimmed his skill. If anything, decades of experience have made him more dangerous. He knows every trick, every feint, every weakness in an opponent's stance. The younger knights watch in awe as the old man in the white cloak destroys everyone who faces him. They take Pike. Balon Greyjoy surrenders. His son Theon is taken as a hostage to Winterfell to ensure the Ironborn's loyalty. The rebellion is over. Robert has his victory, and Barristan has proven that age is no barrier to a true master of the sword. But Robert's interest in ruling does not increase after the war. If anything, he becomes more focused on his pleasures. The crown falls deeper into debt, paying for his tournaments and feasts. The Lannisters, through Queen Cersei, increase their influence over the court. Barristan watches the decay, but says nothing. It is not his place. The years pass. Barristan continues to serve, continues to excel in tournaments, despite his advancing age, continues to uphold his vows with the same iron discipline he always has. He never marries, never fathers children, never holds lands or builds a legacy beyond his service. Sometimes, late at night, he wonders what his life might have been if he had made different choices, if he had refused to serve Robert, if he had broken his vows to stop Aerys, if he had never joined the Kingsguard at all. But these thoughts lead nowhere. He made his choices. He must live with them. In 298, Jon Arryn dies suddenly. The Hand of the King, the man who has held the realm together for 15 years, is dead. Robert decides to name Eddard Stark as the new Hand, Neddard Stark, who helped Robert win the throne. Neddard Stark, whose father and brother were murdered by Eddorys. The king travels north to Winterfell to make the offer in person. Barristan accompanies the royal procession. He meets Ned Stark and immediately recognizes a kindred spirit, a man trying to do the right thing in a world that punishes honor, a man bound by duty even when duty demands terrible sacrifices. They do not speak much. Their positions do not allow for friendship. But Barristan watches Ned and sees himself 20 years ago, full of ideals, believing that honor and duty will be enough. He wants to warn Ned, wants to tell him that the court is a nest of vipers, that honor is a weapon your enemies will use against you, that sometimes doing the right thing means watching everything you love burn. But he says nothing. Ned Stark will learn these lessons himself soon enough. They return to King's Landing. Ned becomes Hand and immediately begins to uncover secrets that should have stayed buried. Jon Arryn was investigating something before he died. Something about Robert's children, about bloodlines and legitimacy. Barristan hears whispers, sees Ned asking questions, watches the tension build between the Hand and Queen Cersei. And he knows something terrible is coming. Robert dies on a hunting trip. A boar gores him while he is drunk. He lingers for days before succumbing to the wound. Barristan is at his bedside when the end comes. Robert, his face pale and his voice weak, speaks of regrets, of Lyanna Stark, the woman he loved who died years ago, of the throne he won but never wanted, of the king he failed to become. "I was not a good king," Robert whispers. "I won the throne, but I never learned to rule it. Perhaps I should have let someone else sit the damned thing." Barristan says nothing. What comfort can he offer? Robert is right. He was not a good king, but he was not an evil one either. Just a man unsuited for the role destiny gave him. Robert dies, and his son Joffrey takes the throne. Immediately, everything falls apart. Ned Stark claims Joffrey is not Robert's true son, claims that Cersei's children are bastards born of incest with her brother Jaime, claims the throne should go to Stannis Baratheon, Robert's younger brother. It is treason or truth, depending on who you ask. Cersei has Ned arrested before he can act on his knowledge. The honorable hand of the king dragged to the dungeons for trying to do what is right. Barristan watches it happen. Again he is powerless. Again his vows keep him chained while injustice unfolds. The parallel to Aerys's reign is inescapable. Different king, different victim, same terrible outcome. Joffrey promises to show mercy, promises to send Ned to the wall to take the black and serve out his days in the Night's Watch. The execution is scheduled as a show of the king's magnanimity. Ned will confess his treason publicly, then be allowed to live. Barristan stands near the Sept of Badlaw with the other Kingsguard as Ned is brought before the crowd. Thousands of people have gathered to watch. Ned confesses, admits to treason he did not commit to save his daughters, to spare them from Joffrey's wrath. It is heartbreaking. A good man destroyed by his own honor. Joffrey stands and speaks. Ned Stark will be spared, sent to the wall. The crowd cheers. Justice and mercy combine. Then Joffrey smiles. That cruel smile of a boy who enjoys causing pain. But the young king says, "They can keep their heads. I will take his." The crowd gasps. Sansa Stark screams for her father. Cersei moves to stop her son, but she is too late. "Sir Elyn," Joffrey commands, "bring me his head." Sir Elyn Payne draws ice, Ned Stark's own sword, and in front of thousands of people, in front of his daughters, Eddard Stark is beheaded. Barristan stands and watches again, always watching, never acting. The execution is so similar to what Aerys did, the cruelty, the injustice, the mad whim of a king who cares nothing for mercy or honor. And Barristan realizes with cold certainty that he is serving another monster. Different than Aerys, yes, Joffrey is not mad in the same way, but he is cruel, sadistic, unfit to rule. And Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold, the greatest knight in the Seven Kingdoms, will once again stand silent and watch atrocities unfold. Because that is what his vows demand. Or is it? For the first time in his life, Barristan begins to question whether the vows themselves are wrong, whether absolute obedience to an unworthy king is not honor but cowardice dressed in white cloth. The doubt plants itself in his mind, like a seed, and in the days to come, it will grow into something that changes everything. Joffrey Baratheon is 13 years old when he becomes king. 13 years old and already a monster in the making. The signs were always there. The way he tortured animals as a child, the casual cruelty towards servants, the pleasure he took in watching others suffer. But children of royalty are indulged, their worst impulses excused as high spirits or the natural arrogance of noble birth. Now that child sits on the Iron Throne with absolute power, and no one can stop him. The days after Ned Stark's execution are tense. The North erupts in fury. Robb Stark, Ned's eldest son, calls his banners and marches south. The Riverlands join him. War comes to the Seven Kingdoms again. But Joffrey does not seem concerned. He holds court each day, making pronouncements, passing judgments, playing at being king. Barristan stands behind the throne as he always has, but something inside him has broken. Watching Ned Stark die, watching that good man destroyed by his own honor while Barristan did nothing, has created a crack in the foundation of everything he believes. How many more times, how many more innocents must die while he stands silent in his white cloak? Cersei controls much of Joffrey's behavior, or tries to, but the boy is becoming harder to manage. He has tasted power and found he likes the flavor. His mother's warnings fall on increasingly deaf ears. The small council meetings become exercises in managing Joffrey's impulses. Tyrion Lannister, Cersei's dwarf brother, tries to inject sanity into the proceedings. Varys whispers careful advice. Grand Maester Pycelle flatters and cajoles, but Joffrey listens to no one. 2 weeks after Ned's death, Joffrey holds court. The throne room is full of petitioners and courtiers. Barristan takes his position behind the throne, as he has done for decades. Joffrey sits in that uncomfortable seat of swords, his thin legs dangling, looking more like a child playing dress-up than a king. But the crown on his head is real, and so is the power it represents. The morning proceeds normally, petitions heard, judgments rendered, most of it handled by Cersei and the small council, while Joffrey fidgets and looks bored. Then Joffrey sits up straight. His eyes gleam with that look Barristan has learned to recognize, the look that means someone is about to suffer for the boy king's amusement. "I have been thinking," Joffrey announces, his voice carrying through the throne room, "about the Kingsguard, about those who protect me." The room falls quiet. Everyone senses something important is about to happen. My father, the king, had 7 men in white cloaks, but some of them are old now, weak, unable to protect me properly. Barristan's hands tighten on his sword belt. He knows what is coming, has known since Ned's execution, that this moment would arrive. "Sir Barristan Selmy," Joffrey says, turning slightly to look at the old knight, "you served my father and his father before him. Your service has been long. Too long," the boy king adds with a cruel smile. "You are old, Sir Barristan, too old to protect anybody. My mother tells me you let my father die on his hunting trip, that you were not there when he needed you. It is a lie, and everyone knows it. Robert died because he got drunk and fought a boar. Barristan was not even on that hunting trip. But truth does not matter here. Therefore," Joffrey continues, "I am releasing you from your vows. You are no longer needed in the Kingsguard." The throne room erupts in shocked whispers. This has never happened before. The Kingsguard serves for life. You do not dismiss a knight of the order. They serve until death takes them. As a reward for your long service, Joffrey says magnanimously, I grant you a keep by the sea and sufficient gold to maintain it. You may retire in comfort and peace. He says it like he is doing Barristan a favor, like this is a generous gift rather than an insult beyond measure. Barristan stands very still. His face shows nothing, but inside, a lifetime of suppressed rage rises like a tide. 40 years. 40 years of sacrifice. No wife, no children, no lands or legacy. He gave up everything for the white cloak, for the vows, for the honor of serving. And now this boy, this cruel child who knows nothing of honor, is tossing him aside like a broken tool. The keep and the gold mean nothing, less than nothing. They are a slap in the face, a suggestion that his service can be bought off with property and coin. Barristan takes a step forward. His hand does not go to his sword, but everyone in the room tenses anyway. His voice when he speaks is quiet, but it carries through the throne room like thunder. I am a knight, he says. I shall die a knight. Joffrey frowns, not understanding. You can be a knight in your castle. I am not taking your title, only your position. Barristan reaches up with both hands, unfastens the white cloak he has worn for over 40 years. The cloth that has been soaked in blood and rain and sweat, the symbol of everything he has been. He holds it for a moment, feels the weight of it. All those years, all those sacrifices, all those compromises and failures and silent complicity in evil. Then he throws it at Joffrey's feet. Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others. If you like, it will never serve another king. The throne room is dead, silent. No one has ever seen anything like this. A Kingsguard openly defying the king. It is unthinkable. Cersei stands quickly. Cersei Barristan, you forget yourself. You will show respect to your king. Barristan ignores her. His eyes are on Joffrey alone. I have served better kings than you, and worse. But I have always served, always obeyed, always stood silent while you and your kind committed your atrocities. His voice grows stronger, louder, decades of repressed anger pouring out. No more. I will not serve a boy who does not know the meaning of the word honor, who murders good men for sport, who plays at being king while knowing nothing of kingship. The Kingsguard reaches for their swords. Sir Meryn Trant, Sir Boros Blount, Sir Preston Greenfield, men chosen more for their loyalty to the Lannisters than their skill at arms. Barristan looks at them. These knights he once called brothers, and he laughs. Even now I could cut through the 5 of you like carving a cake. It is not a boast, it is a simple statement of fact, and every person in that throne room knows it is true. Meryn Trant's hand trembles on his sword hilt. Boros Blount actually takes a step back. They will not attack him, cannot, because Barristan Selmy could kill them all before they landed a single blow. Joffrey's face turns red with rage and humiliation. Arrest him, kill him. But no one moves. Barristan turns and walks toward the doors of the throne room. His stride is steady, unhurried. Every eye follows him. As he reaches the doors, he stops, looks back one final time at the boy on the throne. I am sorry I served you so poorly, Your Grace, but I am more sorry that I served you at all. Then he walks out of the throne room, out of the Red Keep, out of the life he has known for 40 years. Behind him, chaos erupts, Cersei screaming orders, Joffrey shrieking in fury, the Kingsguard uncertain what to do. But Barristan does not look back. He walks through the corridors of the Red Keep with his head high. Servants and guards press themselves against the walls as he passes. They can see it in his face. The freedom, the fury, the absolute certainty that he has finally done the right thing. He reaches his chambers, changes out of his Kingsguard armor, puts on simple traveling clothes, takes only his sword, nothing else. Everything else in this room belongs to the life he is leaving behind. By the time Cersei's guards come looking for him, he is already gone. Barristan knows King's Landing better than most. He has walked these streets for decades. He knows the hidden passages, the shortcuts, the places where a man can disappear. He moves through Flea Bottom, the poorest part of the city. Here no one looks twice at a tall man in common clothes. Everyone is too focused on their own survival. Gold cloaks patrol the streets, searching for him. Barristan hears them calling out descriptions, sees their torches in the distance, but he stays ahead of them, always one step ahead. He reaches the Gate of the Guards as night falls. The guards are checking everyone who passes through, looking for an old knight fleeing the king's justice. But they are looking for a Kingsguard, a man in white armor and cloak, a legend. They do not see the common traveler who walks past them with a slight limp, his beard already starting to grow, his head bowed. Just another old man leaving the city. Nothing remarkable. Barristan walks through the gate and into the countryside beyond. With each step, King's Landing falls further behind him. For the first time since he was 30 years old, he has no king to serve, no vows binding him, no duty except what he chooses for himself. The freedom is terrifying and exhilarating. He has spent his entire adult life defined by his service. Barristan Selmy of the Kingsguard. Barristan the Bold, Lord Commander, the greatest knight in the 7 kingdoms. Now he is just a man with a sword and a lifetime of regrets. He walks through the night, putting distance between himself and King's Landing. By dawn he is miles away. He finds a stream, washes the dust from his face, and looks at his reflection in the water. An old man stares back, lines around his eyes, gray in his beard, the face of someone who has seen too much and done too little, but also something else, something he has not seen in his own face for years. Peace. He made the right choice. Finally, after decades of standing silent, he spoke. He refused. He walked away. It should have happened years ago. Should have happened when Aerys burned Rickard Stark, or when Robert ignored his duties, or when Joffrey killed Ned. But it happened now, and that will have to be enough. Barristan travels west, then south. He has no destination in mind at first. He just walks, working out what to do with the rest of his life. He could find a quiet village somewhere, live out his remaining years in peace. He has coin enough for that, could maybe train young knights, pass on his knowledge. But that feels like giving up, like hiding from the world because it has disappointed him. He hears news as he travels, the war spreading, Robb Stark crowned king in the north, Stannis Baratheon claiming the throne from his fortress on Dragonstone, Renly Baratheon, the youngest brother, also claiming to be the rightful king. 4 kings now, 5 if you count Balon Greyjoy in the Iron Islands, the realm tearing itself apart again. Barristan considers his options. He could offer his sword to one of the claimants. Robb Stark fights for justice for his father. Stannis Baratheon is Robert's rightful heir. By law, Renly is charismatic and loved by the people. But they all feel wrong. More politics, more games, more serving men who want power for its own sake. Then he hears other rumors, whispers from across the narrow sea. A Targaryen girl in the distant east. Daenerys, daughter of the Mad King, sister to Rhaegar, the last of the dragons. The name strikes something deep in Barristan's heart. Targaryen, the family he served for most of his life, the family he abandoned to serve Robert. Perhaps this is his chance for redemption, to serve the dynasty he should never have betrayed, to make amends for standing silent while Rhaegar's children were murdered. He does not know if Daenerys is anything like her father, does not know if she is worthy of service or just another claimant grasping for power. But he knows he needs to find out. Barristan sells what little he has and books passage on a ship heading east. He lets his beard grow long and white, becomes anonymous. Just another old man traveling the world. As the ship pulls away from the dock, he takes one last look at Westeros, the land he has served and bled for, the land that chewed him up and spit him out. He may never see it again, and he finds he does not care. Somewhere in the east is a girl who might be a queen, who might be worthy of the service he has been trying to give his entire life. And Barristan Selmy, for the first time in decades, feels something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. The journey east is long and arduous. Barristan takes ship after ship, moving from port to port, Pentos, Volantis, Court, following rumors and whispers about the Dragon Girl. The stories grow more fantastical the further east he travels. She walked into fire and emerged unburned. She hatched 3 dragon eggs thought to be stone. She leads a khalasar of Dothraki screamers. She has eyes like amethysts and hair like silver flame. Barristan discounts half of what he hears as legend and exaggeration, but even if only part of it is true, Daenerys Targaryen is no ordinary exile. He reaches Koth, the great city on the edge of the Red Waste, and learns he has missed her by months. She was here, caused chaos among the merchant princes and warlocks, then left heading west towards Slavers Bay. Barristan follows, always one step behind, but getting closer. His disguise is complete. Now, his beard is long and white, making him look like a kindly old man rather than the legendary warrior he is. He calls himself Arstan, just Arstan, sometimes Arstan Whitebeard, for those who need a second name. No one recognizes him. No one looks twice at an old man traveling alone. He likes the anonymity. For decades he could not walk through a market without people recognizing Barristan the Bold, could not eat in a tavern without whispers following him. The weight of his reputation was constant, inescapable. Now he is nobody, and it feels like freedom. He catches up to Daenerys outside the city of Astapor. She has a small group with her, a knight named Jorah Mormont, who Barristan recognizes as an exiled northerner, a few blood riders from her late husband's khalasar, some freedmen and servants, and dragons, 3 of them, small still, the size of large dogs, but undeniably real. Their scales shimmer in the sun, green and cream and black. They perch on her shoulders and coil around her arms. Barristan watches from a distance at first, studies this girl who might be his last chance at worthy service. She is young, barely more than a child, perhaps 15 or 16 years old. Her hair is indeed silver, worn in an intricate braid. Her eyes are the purple of the old Valyrian bloodlines. She moves with a grace that speaks of confidence despite her youth. But it is her interactions with her people that tell Barristan what he needs to know. She speaks gently to her handmaids, listens to advice from her counselors without dismissing them, shows concern for the welfare of the freedmen who follow her. Most tellingly, she is here in Slavers Bay preparing to buy an army of unsullied warriors, but not to conquer for conquest's sake. She wants to free them, wants to end slavery. Barristan has served kings his entire life, kings who wanted power, glory, legacy. Never has he served a ruler who wanted to use power to lift up the powerless. He makes his decision. Barristan approaches the camp with another man, a huge eunuch warrior named Strong Belwas, who was sent by Illyrio Mopatis as a gift to Daenerys. They present themselves as humble servants seeking to join her cause. Barristan bows low, playing his role as a simple squire to perfection. "Aston Whitebeard," he says, when asked his name, "I was a squire once, long ago. Too old for fighting now, but I can tend armor and horses, and I know the ways of Westeros, should your grace have need of such knowledge." Daenerys studies him with those unusual eyes. She is young, but there is an old soul looking out from that young face. Someone who has suffered and survived. "You are welcome, Aston," she says. "Any who would join our cause freely are welcome." Just like that, he is part of her inner circle, close enough to observe, close enough to advise when opportunities arise, close enough to protect her should danger come. He watches her negotiate with the slave masters of Astapor, watches her face as they show her the Unsullied, an army of slave soldiers trained from childhood to obey without question, to feel no pain, to die without hesitation. The masters treat the Unsullied like property, like tools to be bought and sold. They brag about the brutal training, how they kill a baby in front of each soldier to prove they have no mercy left, how they cut them, burn them, break them, until nothing human remains. Daenerys's face shows nothing, but Barristan sees her hands clench, sees the tension in her shoulders. She hates what she is seeing, but she needs these warriors if she is to have any hope of reclaiming her throne. The price demanded is steep. One dragon, Drogon, her largest, her favorite. Jorah Mormont advises her against it. The dragons are too valuable, too rare. They are her greatest weapon. But Daenerys agrees to the trade. Barristan watches the exchange with interest. She has a plan. He can see it in her eyes. But she says nothing to her advisors, keeps her own counsel. The day of the exchange arrives. The plaza of Astapor is filled with 8,000 Unsullied standing in perfect formation, the greatest slave army in the world. Behind them, 5,000 more still in training, all of them part of the deal. Krasny's Mabnaklos, the slave master, is giddy with anticipation. He holds the whip that controls the Unsullied. Whoever holds the whip commands the army. Daenerys holds Drogon's chain. The dragon is the size of a small horse now, black scales gleaming like midnight. The exchange is made. Krasny takes the chain. Daenerys takes the whip. Then everything changes. Daenerys turns to face the Unsullied. She speaks in Valyrian, the language of her ancestors, a language she has been learning in secret. "Unsullied," she cries, her voice ringing across the plaza. "March forth and strike the chains off every slave you see." The Unsullied move instantly, not toward the slaves in chains, toward the masters. Krasny screams in fury. He yanks on Drogon's chain, trying to control the dragon, but Drogon answers to no chain, only to his mother. Dracarys, Daenerys says, the Valyrian word for dragon fire. Drogon opens his jaws, and Krasny's Molnaklos disappears in a column of flame. His screams last only a moment. The plaza erupts into chaos. The Unsullied kill every master and slaver they can reach. The slave soldiers, trained to obey without question, now obey a new master, a master who has just set them free. Daenerys drops the whip. She will not rule them with it. She offers them a choice. "You are free," she calls out in Valyrian. "Free to go where you will, free to choose your own path. But if you choose to follow me, to fight with me, I swear I will give you justice. I swear I will take you home." The Unsullied could leave, could scatter to the winds, could turn on her for the betrayal of their former masters. Instead, 8,000 spears, strike shields in unison, a thunderous sound of approval, of loyalty earned, not commanded. Barristan watches all of this with something close to awe. In a single stroke, Daenerys has acquired an army, freed thousands of slaves, and destroyed the slave trade of Astapor. Tactical brilliance combined with moral courage, the rare combination that makes a leader worth following. He approaches her after the chaos settles, kneels before her. "Your Grace," he says quietly, "you have done something truly remarkable today." Daenerys looks at him. There is steel in her eyes now. Whatever softness she might have had is gone, replaced by the certainty of someone who has found their purpose. "It was necessary," she says. "I could not leave them in chains. But there is still something Barristan must do, a truth he must reveal." That night, as the army camps outside Astapor, Daenerys summons her advisors. She has learned a secret. Jorah Mormont was spying on her, sending reports about her to Varys in King's Landing, betrayal from someone she trusted. And she has also learned another secret. Aston Whitebeard is not who he claims to be. She confronts them both in her tent. The dragons coil around her, sensing her anger. "You are Sir Jorah Mormont," she says to the knight, "and you reported my every move to my enemies. You betrayed me." Jorah has no defense. He can only admit it and beg for forgiveness. Then Daenerys turns to Barristan. "And you are not Aston Whitebeard. Elation told me who you really are. You are Ser Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard who served my father." Barristan rises to his feet. There is no point in denying it now. "I am," he says simply. "You served the man who killed my brother. You wore the white cloak for Robert Baratheon. You served the usurper who stole my family's throne and let my nephew and niece be murdered." Her voice is ice. Her eyes are fire. "Why should I not kill you where you stand?" Barristan meets her gaze, does not flinch from her fury. "You should," he says. "You have every right to my head. I have committed crimes against your house, against your family. I will not beg for mercy, because I do not deserve it." He draws his sword, holds it by the blade, offers her the hilt. "But before you kill me, let me tell you what I have done. Let me confess my sins." And he does. He tells her everything. Serving her father when Aerys was young and good, watching helplessly as the Mad King descended into cruelty and madness, standing silent while innocents burned, fighting for Aerys even when he knew the rebels were right, taking Robert's pardon because he was too much a coward to die with honor, serving the Baratheons for 15 years while her family was hunted and killed, doing nothing while her brother wandered Essos begging for armies that never came, being dismissed by Joffrey and realizing too late that he had wasted his life serving monsters. "I came here to find out if you were like your father," he finishes. "If you were mad, if you were cruel, if you were another tyrant waiting to happen." He pauses, then continues. "You are not. You are what I have spent my entire life seeking. A ruler who understands that power is a responsibility, not a privilege, who uses strength to protect the weak, not exploit them. I have failed. Every oath I have ever taken, every vow I have ever made, but I am asking you for one last chance. Let me serve you, not because of duty or obligation, but because you are worth serving." The tent is silent. The dragons watch with unblinking eyes. Jorah stands frozen, waiting for judgment. Daenerys looks at both men, the knight who spied on her and the knight who hid his identity. She banishes Jorah. His betrayal was active, ongoing, a choice he made every day. He must go. But Barristan she spares. "You hid who you were. Because you wanted to know my character before pledging yourself, she says. That is wisdom, not betrayal. And you have been honest with me now, when you could have continued lying. She considers for a moment longer. I accept your service, Sir Barristan. Prove to me that you are worthy of my trust. Prove that Barristan the Bold is more than a name. Prove that you can be the knight you always wanted to be. Barristan kneels. This time, the oath he swears feels different. Not chains binding him to duty, but a promise freely given to someone who has earned it. I will, he says, or die trying. And for the first time in decades, he means it absolutely. The years that follow are unlike anything Barristan has experienced in his long life. He becomes more than just another member of Daenerys's guard. He becomes her teacher, her counselor, the grandfather she never had. They sit together in the evenings after long days of marching or governance. She asks him about Westeros, about the great houses and their histories, about her family. Tell me about my brother, she asks. About Rhaegar. Everyone says he was wonderful. Was he? Barristan chooses his words carefully. He will not lie to her, but he will also honor the memory of a good man. Prince Rhaegar was the finest man I ever knew, he says. Brave and gentle, strong and kind. He loved music and books, but never shirked his duty as a warrior. He would have been a great king. Better than my father. Yes, much better. Your father was Barristan pauses, struggling with how to describe Arisy. Your father was not always mad. When he was young, he was good. But something broke in him, and by the end he was consumed by his fears. Daenerys absorbs this quietly. She knows her father's reputation, knows what the Mad King did, but she also needs to understand where she comes from. Do you think I will go mad? She asks one night. The Targaryen madness. Do you think I carry it? Barristan looks at this young woman who freed an army of slaves, who rules with justice tempered by mercy, who listens to counsel but makes her own decisions. No, he says firmly. You are not your father. You are yourself, and you are stronger than he ever was. They conquer Yunkai next. Then Meereen, the greatest of the slave cities. Each conquest follows the same pattern. Break the chains, free the slaves, show the powerful that their cruelty will not stand. But ruling is harder than conquering. Much harder. Meereen fights back against Daenerys' rule. The Sons of the Harpy, an insurgent group of former slave masters and their supporters, begin a campaign of terror. They murder freedmen in the night, kill unsullied soldiers in ambushes, leave their harpy symbol as a calling card. Barristan helps organize the defense of the city. His decades of experience with warfare prove invaluable. He knows how to counter guerrilla tactics, how to set up patrols, how to gather intelligence. But even he cannot stop every attack. The Sons of the Harpy are everywhere and nowhere, citizens by day, assassins by night. There are other problems too. The freed slaves struggle to build new lives. The former masters resist every reform. Food supplies run low. Disease spreads through the crowded streets. Daenerys grapples with each crisis as it comes. She makes mistakes, makes hard choices that anger one faction or another, but she never stops trying, never gives up. Barristan watches her navigate these impossible situations with growing respect. She has no training in governance, no education in statecraft. Everything she knows she has learned through necessity and pain. And she is doing better than most kings Barristan has served. The biggest conflict comes over a man named Deraria, a sellsword captain, handsome, charming, absolutely ruthless. He commands the Second Sons, a mercenary company that switched sides to join Deraria. And Daenerys is attracted to him. Barristan disapproves strongly. Dareo is everything a proper consort should not be: low-born, untrustworthy, more interested in gold and glory than honor or duty. But Daenerys is young, and she has sacrificed so much already: her childhood, her innocence, her first husband. She deserves some happiness, some passion, even if Barristan thinks she is making a mistake. He advises against the relationship, argues that it weakens her authority, that the other nobles will not respect a queen who takes a sellsword to her bed. Daenerys listens to his concerns, then ignores them. "I appreciate your counsel, Sir Barristan," she says one evening, "but I am not just a queen, I am also a woman, and I will make my own choices about my personal life." It is a rebuke, gentle but firm, a reminder that she is not his daughter or his student. She is his queen, and she will rule as she sees fit. Barristan accepts this. He has learned finally that there is a difference between advising and controlling, between protecting someone and imprisoning them with your protection. The fighting pits are another source of tension. The Meereenese want them reopened. They are part of the culture, they argue. Entertainment, tradition. Daenerys hates them, sees them as slavery by another name. Men fighting and dying for the amusement of crowds. But eventually she compromises. The pits can reopen, but only free men can fight. No slaves forced into the arena. Barristan supports her decision. Though he personally finds the pits distasteful, he has seen enough death for entertainment in his lifetime. The great reopening of Daznak's pit becomes a political necessity. Daenerys must attend to show support for Meereenese culture, must appear strong and confident before the people. Barristan argues against it. The Sons of the Harpy could use the crowd as cover for an assassination attempt. It is too dangerous. But Daenerys goes anyway, and Barristan, of course, goes with her. The pit is massive, holding thousands of spectators. The sand below is stained with old blood. The air smells of sweat and fear and anticipation. The fights begin. Gladiators clash with swords and spears. Men die for the entertainment of the crowd. Daenerys watches with barely concealed disgust. Then something impossible happens. A shadow passes over the pit. The crowd looks up, and there, descending from the sky, is Drogon. The dragon has grown massive in the months since Daenerys last saw him. His wingspan blocks out the sun. His scales are black as midnight, and he is hungry. Drogon lands in the arena, snatches up a gladiator, and devours him. The crowd panics. People stampede for the exits. The other fighters try to attack the dragon and are burned alive. Chaos reigns. Barristan draws his sword, moves to protect Daenerys, but she is already moving, not away from the dragon, toward it. She walks down the steps into the pit, approaches Drogon as he feeds. The dragon could kill her with a snap of his jaws, could burn her to ash with his fire. But he does not. Daenerys reaches out, touches his snout, speaks to him in words. Barristan cannot hear over the screaming crowd. Then she climbs onto his back. Drogon spreads his wings, launches himself into the sky with powerful strokes. In seconds, they are gone, disappearing into the clouds above Meereen. Barristan stands in the now empty pit and stares at the sky where his queen disappeared. He has no idea if she is alive or dead, if Drogon carried her to safety or to her doom. All he knows is that Meereen is without its queen, and someone must hold the city together until she returns. If she returns, the days that follow are the hardest of Barristan's life. He becomes Hand of the Queen by necessity, must make decisions about governance, about security, about the growing threats outside the city. A massive army arrives to besiege Meereen. Slave cities allied together to crush Daenerys' revolution. They surround the city by land and sea. And Daenerys, is gone. Barristan arrests Hisdar Zolorak, Daenerys' husband, on suspicion of leading the Sons of the Harpy. He may be wrong, but the evidence is too strong to ignore. He consults with the other advisors: Grey Worm, leader of the Unsullied; Missandei, Daenerys' closest friend, the captains of her armies. Together they make a decision. They will not wait for the siege to starve them out. They will attack. Barristan plans a sortie from the city, a bold strike at the enemy camp before they can fully entrench. It is risky, possibly suicidal, but it is the only chance they have. He will lead the attack himself. At over 60 years old, he will ride at the front of the charge one more time. Because this is what he does, what he has always done. Face impossible odds without hesitation. Be bold when wisdom would counsel caution. The night before the battle, Barristan sits alone in his chambers and thinks about his life. He has lived longer than most knights, has seen and done things that will be remembered in songs for generations, but he has also failed more times than he can count. Failed to stop Aerys, failed to save Rhaegar. Section 10, Legacy continued. Failed to stop Aerys, failed to save Rhaegar, failed to protect the innocent when it mattered most. But here, at the end, he has found something worth dying for. A queen who deserves his service, a cause that is just a chance to make all those years of compromise mean something. If he dies tomorrow in the sortie, he will die knowing he finally got it right. The battle comes with the dawn. Barristan leads the Unsullied and freedmen out of Meereen's gates. They charge into the enemy camp with disciplined fury. And this is where the stories diverge, where the path splits between what happened in the books that George R.R. Martin has written and what happened in the show that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss created. In the books, the Battle of Fire is still unfolding. The outcome unknown. Barristan leads his forces with all the tactical brilliance of his decades of experience. He is outnumbered, but not outmatched. The battle rages across the pages and then stops, frozen in time, waiting for Martin to finish the tale. We do not know if Barristan survives. We do not know if Daenerys returns in time to save her city. We do not know how his story ends because the story is not finished. It is fitting in a way. Barristan's life has always been about the next battle, the next threat, the next test. Perhaps it is appropriate that his tale remains unfinished, still fighting, still striving, still bold until the very last page. But in the show, the ending came sooner, and it came in a narrow alley in Meereen. The Sons of the Harpy launch an attack on an Unsullied patrol. Grey Worm and his men are ambushed in the cramped streets, surrounded by masked assassins with daggers. Barristan hears the fighting, rushes to help. He is in his 60s, without armor, but he does not hesitate. He arrives to find Grey Worm wounded and the Unsullied being slaughtered, draws his sword, and begins to fight. Even now, even old and unarmored, he is magnificent. His blade cuts through the Sons of the Harpy like they are children playing at war. He kills them with the ease of long practice, with the skill that made him a legend. But there are too many, always too many. And this is not a battlefield where skill and courage are enough. This is guerrilla warfare, ambush, assassination, the kind of fighting where legends die in gutters. They come at him from all sides. He kills 1, 2, 5, 10. His blade never stops moving, but there are always more. A knife slips past his guard, then another and another. The wounds accumulate, his movements slow. He falls to his knees, still fighting, still trying to protect Grey Worm and the others, but his strength is fading. The final blow comes from behind, a coward's strike, And Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold, the greatest knight of his generation, dies in a dirty alley in a foreign city, killed by men whose faces he never saw. The show's version of his death angered many fans. They felt it was beneath him, that the greatest swordsman in Westeros deserved a more epic ending, a duel with a worthy opponent, a blaze of glory. But perhaps there is a truth to it that the fans did not want to accept. War is not glorious. Death is not poetic. The greatest warriors do not always get the endings they deserve. Sometimes legends die in alleys. Sometimes courage is not enough. Sometimes the story ends not with triumph but with a knife in the back. And yet, even in that ignoble death, there is honor. Barristan died protecting others, died fighting against evil, died doing exactly what he had spent his entire life doing. He died a knight. Both versions of Barristan's ending, the unfinished and the tragic, tell us something important about who he was. He was a man of impossible skill, a warrior who fought for 60 years and was never defeated in single combat, a knight who could stand against 5 opponents and make them fear to draw their swords. He was also a man of impossible principle. He held himself to standards that no one else could meet, never broke his vows, even when breaking them would have been the right thing to do, never compromised his honor, even when honor demanded terrible things. But most importantly, he was a man who learned, who changed, who grew. The young Barristan who charged at Malus the Monstrous believed that courage alone was enough, that boldness and skill could solve any problem. The middle-aged Barristan who served the Mad King learned that duty without judgment is cowardice, that following orders is not the same as doing right, that sometimes the most honorable thing you can do is nothing at all. And the old Barristan who found Daenerys learned that it is never too late to choose, that service to an unworthy cause is worse than no service at all, that breaking vows to serve something greater is not dishonor but the highest form of honor. His legacy is complicated, contradictory, human. He enabled monsters by serving them faithfully, stood silent while innocents died, chose obedience over conscience more times than he should have. But he also saved a king at Duskendale, fought with unmatched skill in 100 battles, held himself to standards that made other knights better just by existing. And at the end, he chose redemption over comfort, chose to serve a worthy cause, even if it meant dying far from home. The songs will remember Barristan the Bold as the greatest knight who never lost. They will sing of his charge at the Stepstones, his rescue at Duskendale, his stand at the Trident, his service to 5 monarchs across 6 decades. But the songs will not capture the complexity, will not show the nights he lay awake wondering if he was doing the right thing, will not record his doubts, his failures, his compromises. That is the difference between legends and people. Legends are simple, people are not. The Barristan Selmy was both, a legend who happened to be a person who became a legend. And in the end, what matters is not how he died, but how he lived. Not the mistakes he made, but what he did about them. Not the vows he kept, but why he kept them. He spent his entire life seeking worthy service, seeking a ruler who deserved his loyalty, seeking a cause that justified the sacrifices he made. He found it in an exiled girl with 3 dragons, and a dream of breaking chains. Found it too late in his life to matter as much as it should have, but he found it, and that has to count for something. There is a moment in the books where Daenerys asks Barristan what he remembers most about his years of service. What stands out after 6 decades of wearing the white cloak? He thinks for a long time before answering. Then he says something unexpected. The quiet moments, Your Grace. Standing guard outside a door while nothing happens, riding beside a king on a peaceful road. The hours and days and years when there was no glory, no battle, no test, just duty, just being where I swore I would be. That is what makes a knight, he continues. Not the tournaments or the battles, not the songs or the glory, but the willingness to stand in an empty hallway for hours because you promised you would. The discipline to do what you swore to do even when no one is watching, even when it costs you everything, even when it would be easier to walk away. Daenerys considers this, then asks the question that cuts to the heart of everything. But what if your duty demands you do something wrong? What if the king you serve is unworthy? Barristan is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is heavy with regret. Then you must choose between your vows and your conscience, and whatever you choose, you will be wrong. That is the tragedy of service. Sometimes there are no good choices, only less terrible ones. He pauses, then adds quietly, I made the wrong choice too many times, chose my vows over my conscience, and I will carry that guilt until I die. This is the heart of Barristan Selmy's story. Not his skill with a sword, not his legendary courage, but his struggle with an impossible question. What do you do when duty and morality conflict? When the vows you swore demand you enable evil, when the only way to be honorable is to be dishonorable. Barristan chose duty. Again and again he chose duty, until finally, at the end, he chose differently. Some would say he chose too late, that the damage was already done, that standing by while Aerys burned innocent people makes him complicit in those deaths. Others would say he did the best he could in impossible circumstances, that his vows were sacred and breaking them would have destroyed the institution of the Kingsguard, that he ultimately made the right choice by finding and serving Daenerys. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Barristan Selmy was a great knight, perhaps the greatest of his generation. But being a great knight is not the same as being a good person, and Barristan spent decades learning that lesson. His story is a warning, a caution against blind obedience, against elevating duty above humanity, against following rules so strictly that you forget why the rules exist in the first place. But it is also a story of redemption, of growth, of an old man who realized his mistakes and tried to make amends, who chose finally to serve something worth serving. And that matters, because in a world of cynics and schemers, in a world where everyone is out for themselves, Barristan Selmy genuinely believed in something, believed in honor and duty and service, believed that knights should be more than just soldiers with fancy titles. He failed to live up to those ideals more often than he succeeded, but he never stopped trying, never stopped believing, never stopped seeking that perfect service he dreamed of as a boy. And in Daenerys Targaryen, for a brief moment at the end of his long life, he found it. Whether he died in that alley, in Meereen, or whether he still fights in the pages yet to be written, his legacy is secure. Barristan the Bold, the boy who charged at a monster, the knight who saved a king, the Lord Commander who served too long, the old man who finally chose redemption. The greatest knight who never lost a duel, but lost himself for decades before finding his way back. He was not perfect, but he was genuine, and in a world of lies and betrayals and false knights, that might be the most important thing of all. His story teaches us that honor is complicated, that doing the right thing is not always clear, that sometimes the bravest choice is admitting you were wrong and trying to make it right. Barristan Selmy spent his life in service to kings worthy and unworthy, to vows he kept and broke, to ideals he upheld and compromised. And at the very end, he served something that mattered, someone who deserved his loyalty, a cause worth dying for. That is not a failure. That is not a wasted life. That is the life of a true knight, flawed and human and real. The greatest knight who never lost, except when he did, except when it mattered, except when he stood silent and let evil happen because his vows told him to. But also the knight who learned from those losses, who grew, who changed, who became, finally, what he always wanted to be. Not just a warrior, not just a legend, but a man worthy of the white cloak he wore for so long. Barristan Selmy, Barristan the Bold. His story is finished or unfinished, depending on which tale you follow. But the lesson remains the same. Be bold, but also be wise. Follow your duty, but also your conscience. Serve with honor, but choose carefully who you serve. And if you make mistakes, as you will, as everyone does, do not spend the rest of your life making the same mistake over and over. Choose again. Choose better. Choose redemption. It is never too late. That is the legacy of Barristan the Bold. Not perfection, but the courage to keep trying, to keep striving, to keep believing that honor means something even when the whole world suggests otherwise. And in the end, that might be the most important kind of boldness of all,